So now we're just going to look at creating an Einstein discovery story. So I'm going to go into Data Manager. And look at my data sets. And I want to maximize the price paid. So Einstein Analytics has now finished creating that discovery story. It has some recommended updates for us. Okay. The first one is image and building type. So the building type is whether it's like detached or semi-detached, and the image is the image we used to represent that in our dashboard earlier. So they're effectively a duplicate of each other. So what we want it to do is ignore the image, but we want it to keep the building type because it is probably true and valid that the type of building has a large effect on the price paid, but we don't want to duplicate it twice. Okay, so this is now offering to remove the outliers, which we will do. And then here are the duplicates that Einstein's recognised. So we're retaining building type. That's an interesting one, new build and locality. Because of the way Milton Keynes is set up, there probably is a large amount of correlation over a large number of years, that if you're in a newer area, that area would have a large amount of new builds. So I'm going to leave both of those in. Yeah, I can see that your location and postcode area would effectively be the same thing. So I'm just going to retain locality. And locality. So we're just going to, now that we've followed the recommended updates, just let Einstein run through those the data now. And it certainly would be possible to have removed some of those more duplicate fields before we ran the story the first time. But there may well be ones, depending on the size of your data set. It's very easy to get the recommendations and make the adjustments based on those. So what you need to be more careful of are things with a high degree of correlation, but that are based on something historic. So say you were looking to maximize spend, and you had in your data, I don't know, like a gold club member for somebody who spends over a certain amount. So what you'd find is that there was a huge correlation between those who were members and those who spent a lot. But that's sort of self-evident by the fact that when they spend a lot, you make them a member. You might have some who choose not to, so it might not be a perfect correlation. But it would still be, if you looked at the predictions and the insights and then looked at the data, it would still be obvious you had an issue there and would want to remove that, because even though it looked like it was explaining a variation, it really wouldn't be. So we're just going to go back and look at the updates now. Okay, so I'm happy to leave those in. So if we're looking to maximize the price paid, having a detached house is always going to explain the largest amount of variation. And now we get into some more interesting specifics. So this is saying that if you're in the locality of Bletchley, detached and terrace will do worse than they would elsewhere within the areas that we're looking at in the data set. Whereas if you're in Shenley Church End, detached will do better and flats will do worse. Okay. And now we get into the locality. So we can see certain areas, the houses, everything else being equal, are way above the average line for the area. We can see that leaseholds do worse than freeholds in these specific areas. That's accentuated. We can now have a look at the other elements of the story, why it happened. So this is drivers of price paid when the building type is detached, and you can see the other elements and the effect it's had, different types of buildings, what makes the price worse in terms of new build, and this is all picked up from that data set. We can have a look at what the difference is. I've just put in a couple of areas here, Newton Longville, Newton Leys, cases where Newton Leys outperforms Newton Longville and where it doesn't. And then we can have a look at what could happen. So here you can choose what's actionable within your data. So maybe you can change discount level or promotions, way of acquiring new customers. So it's something here that's an actionable change for you, and then you can see what could happen if the data follows the historic pattern. So, for example, if we can change the building type, if we can change to detached, we know the price paid goes higher. That's fairly obvious. It's perhaps not the best data set for getting huge new insights, but we could, for example, say that the locality is actionable. choose where we're purchasing, and then we can see which locations that creates the highest price paid. And we could do this, that's for freeholds, so we could do this for new builds. So highest price paid for new builds. If we change these locations, or for not new builds, and then those locations would change depending on what you're interested in.